All right. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to this week's episode of Tone Theory. Hope everyone's having a good week so far. We've already got quite a few people in the chat. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out and waiting for the stream to start. Couple of quick announcements. 20% off everything in my store. That's including the tone course and the brand new impulse responses that I just put up last week. Use the code OD20. It's linked in the description box down below, and we'll have it in the chat every couple of minutes. So, also, it's my wife's 30th birthday today, so everyone wish Tilly a happy birthday. So, today, we're talking about overdrives. I should point out, my name is Rhett, and I have an overdrive problem. Overdrive pedals are some of my favorite. Actually, overdrive, if I had to pick one effect that I've owned more pedals of and spent more time digging into, it's definitely overdrives. As you can probably tell by the thumbnail, I have quite a few. I've bought and sold and traded dozens and dozens and dozens of overdrives over the years. And the reason I wanted to talk about this today is because over the last couple of years, I've had sort of a shift in my thinking when it comes to overdrives and how to put overdrives together on your board. How many overdrives do you actually need on your board? I even dedicated a pretty good portion of the tone course to talking about overdrive and stacking overdrives and how I like to put different overdrives together and all that kind of stuff. So if you want to know more information about that, that's all in the tone course. But today, I'm going to tell you why, in my opinion, you don't need more than, I think, 2 overdrives on your board. I saw some people in the chat early on talking about how many drives they have on your board, and I used to be like that. At one time, I was trying to find a picture of it before I went live, and I couldn't, but one of my first sort of big boy pedal boards, so to speak, I think I had 7 or 8 overdrives and 2 or 3 boosts on that board. It was insane. I forget the actual number of how many drives I had, but it was stupid. And my thought process at the time was, oh, well, each one of these does a different thing, and I can stack them and combine them in different ways and have all of these different overdrive sounds and have access to any type of overdrive tone or lead tone or rhythm tone that I would ever need. And the reality is, I only ever used about 2. So today we're going to talk about that, why you don't need as many overdrives as you think you do, and how to get the most out of the overdrives that you have. So let's talk quickly about the signal flow. Starting off with the Novo Solus today, because this isn't mine. Many of you probably know the story on this guitar. This is the prototype. This was the NAMM guitar that I was able to talk them into loaning me. And now, since everything's closed, it gets to stay with me for a little bit longer. So playing the Solus today, going into my orange AD30, single channel AD30, and from there into the aux, and you guys are hearing the aux. So there's no cabinet in the room or anything like that. And then here I've got the patented Tone Theory pedal board set up today. And there's a pretty wide range of stuff on here. So starting from right, going to left, we have the Jackson Audio Golden Boy. I just got this in the mail yesterday. Huge thanks to Jackson Audio. They sent me a Golden Boy and a Bloom to check out. I've been playing this thing all morning. This is probably one of my new favorite overdrives, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Next to that, we have my signature pedal. This is the Lark from Mythos, and this is, I believe, the first one that was off the line. So this one has an orange LED here, where most of them are, the rest of them are red. This is basically like an amp in a box style preamp overdrive meant to emulate a GA5T Skylark amp like my 64 Skylark. Next to that, we have the Jam Pedals Double Dreamer. I have this on here because if we're going to talk about overdrives, we have to talk about tube screamers, and this is my favorite tube screamer. I'm not a tube screamer guy, but I like this one, and we'll get into that in a little bit. It's actually 2 different tube screamers put together with an extra gain stage in the middle, which is super cool. And then this, I bought this a couple of weeks ago from a local store from me here in Atlanta. This is the Chula, the Love Pedal Chula. This thing is sick. Josh Smith, this is his pedal. They had it used. It was sitting in the used case over at Atlanta Discount Music, and I just grabbed it and bought it because this thing is this is an heirloom piece, I think, right here. This is an Overdrive that I will hold on to for the rest of my life. Let me turn that mic up a little bit. Does that sound better? All right. So, how many Overdrives do you need? Realistically, I think you realistically only need 2 and a boost, okay? Now, there's no standalone boost pedal on this board. The Jackson Audio, the Golden Boy, has a boost circuit in it. The Chula has a standalone boost circuit in it. So we can kind of cover that base. But you can do everything you need to do with 2 Overdrives, especially if you're running an amp that is set up like this one. So let's play it here. This is my my clean tone. Trying to find the balance where my string noise doesn't come through the mic, and yeah, it's tough. So, pretty clean-ish tone. It is a little broken up if I dig in. Turn that mic back down a little bit. But that's not super dirty. Now, let's kick on the first pedal here. The Golden Boy, and this is just how I have it set up. It's in the purple mode. Now, first thing, thinking about different gain stages. When I put together a pedal board that I'm going to use on a session or I'm going to use on a gig, I like to have at least 3 different gain stages. And what do I mean by gain stages? Basically 3 different levels of dirt or overdrive that I can access really easily. So actually it would be 4. So stage 1 is just the amp by itself. This is effectively my clean tone. Okay, so this is the tone that I'm using for clean picking parts. If I'm using any ambient reverbs or delays, then I don't want a lot of overdrive. So that's stage 1. Stage 2, switch back to pedalboard cam here. Stage 2 would be this light to medium gain overdrive. Now, pedals that do that really well are the Greer Lightspeed, the Morning Glory from JHS, any type of blues breaker overdrive circuit, which I believe the Golden Boy actually is a blues breaker style circuit, which explains why I like it so much. So that's stage 2. Now, stage 2 is your rhythm sound, or what I would count as my rhythm sound. So this would be, you know, it's a little dirty, but it's not super saturated. And this is the thing that I think I struggled with for a long time as a guitar player, and I've seen some other guys struggle with in their tone, is having too much gain on your rhythm sound. You really don't need a crazy saturated, uh-oh, here we go. That's weird. It won't turn off. There we go. So having too much gain. Oh no. There we go. It's having too much gain. So if I kicked on the double dreamer here, make it a little dirtier. That is too much gain, in my opinion, for some rhythm sound. Now, in the context of this live stream and the guitar by itself, you might think, well, that sounds really good. And actually, it does. But when you're playing in a band or you're recording something, when you're adding overdrive, especially something like a Tube Screamer, you're adding mid-range presence. You're adding a lot in the mid-range frequencies. And in the context of a mix with a full band, that can compete with the vocals. It can compete with keys. If you have another guitar player, it starts to fill up that mid-range really quickly. So I prefer, maybe my power on this thing is weird. Or maybe they sent me a broken one. That's weird. So I prefer my second gain stage to be light to medium gain overdrive. Third gain stage is how I have the Lark set up here. Okay, well, we're gonna have to bypass the Golden Boy because it is acting up for some reason. I mean, it's like, it's the phantom pedal. Look at that. It's not even powered and it's changing. All right. So, gain stage 2. Now, this is going to be, in my opinion, like heavy rhythm sound or lead part sound. So, this would be... I would use a sound like that in a lead part. If I was playing a featured melody in a song, or I wanted a not super dirty overdrive sound. So something like... There's enough grit there, there's enough mid-range presence and top-end presence there to cut through and stand out, and that makes more sense when you are the featured part in a mix or on a gig. You want something that's maybe giving you a little bit of a volume boost, a little bit of a more frequency, a mid-frequency boost, something that's helping you cut through a little more. That's where I would use my stage 3. And then stage 4 would be your full-on lead sound. So for this, I've kicked on the Chula with both stages. So this is the Chula just on by itself. God, that pedal sounds so good. And then you have this extra boost stage here, which is controlled by this knob. You can add or take away however much boost you want going in. So now we have basically stage 4 is the lead sound. Now keep in mind, this is just my approach, right? And how I approach my sounds for the style of music that I play. But I can accomplish everything that I need to do, all 4 stages of gain, with just 2 pedals. And for this example, since the Golden Boy crapped out, I'm going to use the Lark and the Chula to show this. So essentially, the way I would set these 2 pedals up, if these were on my board, these are the only 2 overdrives I would have set up on my board. I would set one to be a light edge of breakup kind of sound. In this case, it's going to be the Lark, because I actually don't have that much control over the Chula. The Chula is sort of set internally, and again, this knob controls the amount of boost for the second stage here. So I'm going to set the Lark up to be just a little bit of grit here. Now, to me, that's really good. That's your... And if I wanted to, like we talked about in the last week's episode, using your volume control on your guitar. So if you're only going to use 2 pedals like this, maybe set the one pedal to be your medium gain. So adding a little bit more overdrive on the lark here. And then if I want to back off a little bit, not touching the pedal, I'm just going to roll my volume knob on the guitar back. So going from 10 down to 6. Now, this is a point that I want to bring up. When you're shopping for overdrives, when you're looking at like a soft clipping overdrive circuit, like all these pedals here on this board are, you want to test how well does it clean up and how well does it respond to your volume knob on your guitar. People talk about this all the time with fuzzes, like how well does a fuzz clean up? And I feel the same way about overdrive pedals. How well does an overdrive pedal, does it react like a good amp circuit would? In this case, the Lark, we designed it to work this way. So, you know, here's my volume at 10. And then backing off like to 6 or 7. It almost sounds like a different pedal. The character has changed completely. The EQ spectrum changes, the amount of gain changes, and all I'm doing is rolling off the volume knob on my guitar. So that would be how I'd have the first pedal set up. And that would be everything from my light gain to medium gain to first sort of lead and solo tone, like stage 1 lead and solo. And I'm going to switch to a humbucker guitar in a second here so we can play something on the neck pickup and everything. But yeah, that sounds great. Now, my second pedal, I'm going to set to pick up where this first pedal left off. So we've got the Chula here. And again, I don't have a ton of control over the Chula, but it's pretty much already set where I would have it, which is medium gain. It's set to medium gain, and it's kind of overlapping a little bit with the Lark, but it's sort of picking up where the Lark is left off, especially when I engage the second side here, and then I get... Now, let's say you've only got 2 overdrives that neither one of them have a boost circuit. This is where your boost pedal would come in. And we'll talk about where in the chain you should put that in a minute. So basically, with just these 2 pedals, I have every single overdrive sound that I would ever need for any situation that personally I would find myself in as a guitar player. I've got my light to medium gain, my medium to mid-range gain, and then if I stack both of them together, I have... That's your searing lead sound. Now, I am introducing quite a bit of noise into the circuit with all that stuff, so I wouldn't leave that on. That's for the parts of the set where you're really stepping forward. You need the volume boost, you need the gain boost, and you need that EQ shift. I don't know if you noticed here, but with all of these on together, the EQ shifts, and you start to... it pulls some of the low end out of the signal. Now, pulling that low end out is important, especially when you're playing with a cabinet in a room. You don't want all that low end coming in. And for those of you guys just joining the chat, just joining the stream here, 20% off everything in my store. Use the code OD20 at checkout. That's 20% off the tone course, the new impulse response packs, Helix presets, Kemper profiles, all that stuff linked down below. So what's happening is with these 2 pedals, the way they interact with each other, it's pulling a lot of that low end out of the signal, which I think works well in a live context because for a guitar player, you really don't need that much bottom end coming from your amp, especially if you've got a bass player on stage or a keys player or whatever. And in the context of a mix, if you're recording, if you're tracking at home, you're going to end up pulling a lot of that low end out anyway, or you should, to help preserve space in the mix for the kick drum, for the bass, any other low end information that needs to be there. So what's happening here is these two overdrives are essentially high passing for me. They're high passing that low end frequency for me, which is really cool. So let's forget these two for a second and let's talk about the double dreamer. The reason I put this on the board is I love these sort of 2-in-1 style pedals. There's a ton of them out there. A bunch of companies make these. And this is essentially your end-all be-all solution. You know, if you don't have a ton of space on your board or you don't have a ton of money to spend on a bunch of different overdrives, maybe you have power limitations. Maybe you used all of the outlets on your power supply and you can only fit one more pedal on your board without having to upgrade to a bigger power supply. These are all things I've run into in board builds in the past. Something like a dual stage overdrive is really cool. So this is the double dreamer. This iteration is basically two tube screamers put together. The one on the left is their tube dreamer pedal, and this is pretty much a standard tube screamer. So it has that super mid-rangey quality. I'm going to switch to the Les Paul here. So it has that super mid-range focused tube screamer thing that we all know. I mean, you can really hear how much mid-range is pushing through. And traditionally, I don't really like tube screamers, but I really dig that one. And essentially with this one pedal, you can do everything that I was just talking about. You have the two different pedals and essentially a boost feature built into one box. So if I had a pedal like this, the way I would set it up is the same thing I was just talking about. I would set one side to be my more gainy, a little bit louder, you know, mid-rangey kind of sound. So that's the left side here. You know, all that stuff sounds great. This side I'm gonna set to be more clean. So let's bring that down. Brighten it up a little bit. Bring some of that. And the other thing to think about too here is setting these at unity gain. So if you don't know, unity gain essentially means the volume of the amp. Remember last week we talked about the difference between gain and volume. The volume output of your amp shouldn't change when you kick the pedal on. That's what setting to unity gain is. So what I'm going to do with this first stage is make sure that I have this set to unity gain. So my amp isn't getting louder in the room, it's just getting more dirty, essentially. So it's pretty easy to set that up. You just literally turn the pedal on and off. So there's unity gain on this pedal. Dial the gain back a little bit. So there's my stage one overdrive. And then here I have this extra gain stage pedal, not pedal, but circuit here in the middle. And there's a switch on top. And what this switch does is it allows you to assign this gain stage either to the left, to the right, or to let it work for both. So I like leaving it in the middle. And what I have here is an extra layer of gain. That's incredibly useful. I mean, there it takes it straight to my second stage overdrive. Now, this one we already set up. that's going to be my stage 2 and stage 3 overdrive put together. So there's my heavy rhythm sound. There's my initial lead sound. And then when I stack them together, I have and you have a similar effect happening here in the low end as the Chula and the Lark together. You might notice that when both of them are on together, it's not as present in the low end. Especially when you do things like that kind of stuff versus and then what's cool about this pedal is you have that extra stage on top. Tons of overtones coming through there. You can hear them. That's all from one pedal. Now, again, there's plenty of different pedals on the market that are like this multi-stage overdrive. And this is what I would recommend for someone who's just starting out or someone who's on a bit of a budget. Maybe you don't know exactly what you're looking for yet. You don't have a ton of space on your board. You might have reached the limits of your power supply for your board. Something like this, I think, is a good place to start. The thing to be careful of is to not fall into the trap that we all do. And I'm still there. I mean, I have drawers of overdrive pedals that I've bought over the years and have been given to me for the channel and all kinds of stuff. And they all do different things. They all have a different voice. But you don't need to have all of them on your board at the same time, because the reality is you're not likely to use all of them. And it adds complexity. It's adding more potential failure points, especially if you're traveling a lot, if you're working a lot and you're moving your board around a lot. Extra patch cables, extra power cables, those are things that can fail. And this is just a lesson I've learned after multiple pedal board iterations and rebuilding my boards and selling stuff and buying stuff and trying different setups. Personally, I'm a big fan of simplicity and getting the most that you can out of the least amount of gear. And when it comes to overdrives, I really think you only need 2. Again, that's my personal opinion. If you use all 12 overdrives on your board and it makes you happy and it gets the sound that you have in your head, then by all means, that's great. Whatever blows your skirt up. But hopefully I've demonstrated in this video that you can accomplish a lot with just a few different pedals. Kind of bummed that Golden Boy crapped out. That thing sounded really good. I wonder what the problem is. So that's it for today's Tone Theory. Thanks everyone for watching. Let's check out what's going on in the chat here. Again, if you're just joining, 20% off everything in my store. Use the code OD20 at checkout. Follow the link in the description. Follow the link in the chat. Get 20% off the tone course. Get 20% off of my new impulse response packs, Helix presets, Kemper profiles, all that stuff. Happy birthday to my wife. It's also our anniversary today. We got married on her birthday, which is pretty cool. So, let's see here. Aaron, give the Gold another try. Let's see. It might be a power issue. I haven't actually looked. I might be underpowering it. I just plugged it into a 9-volt power supply. So the issue might be on me. somebody look up and tell me what the power requirements of the Golden Boy are. I know it's 9 volts, but okay, there we go. Yeah, it sounds good, man. Awesome. Okay, everyone. Thanks so much for hanging out. Hope you enjoyed today's Tone Theory. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And comment down below and let me know what you want to see next on the Tone Theory live stream series. Thanks, everyone.